It is a Thursday, and the Baylor football team is missing 3 coaches, none of which are named Dave Aranda, by the way. Cameron Stewart from Locked On Baylor there, Drake Toll here from Locked On Big 12, and Cam, Dave Aranda has fired some odd dozen coaches in his tenure at Baylor over the course of 4 years, now he's seen 3 fall through his fingertips to Alabama and the Baltimore Ravens of the National Football League. Usually we would say what a sign of a great program, but I mean, what? How blindsided can you get?
Look, I have posed this question to my listeners at Locked On Baylor, and I want to take this chance to throw it out there to the good fans of the Truck Stop Conference, the Big 12. Is Dave Aranda too good at hiring coaches?
It's a genius.
I think that's where we're at right now. I think we have to ask that question. Okay. Like one guy literally comes in, Chris Kapilovic, the offensive line coach, they take him from Michigan State in December.
Oh, I forgot about that guy. Didn't he used to coach for Baylor?
In December. And by February, Alabama's taking him. Like literally, this is Kalen DeBoer thinking, oh my, I didn't think much of Kapilovic, but Dave Aranda went after him. That we got to get on this because Dave Aranda is always onto something. We've had the 2 get taken. This has been a wild week. 2 get taken by Alabama on Monday. That's Kapilovic and linebackers coach Christian Robinson. And then Wednesday, they hire an offensive line coach in the morning and everyone gets excited. And then another coach leaves in the afternoon. Dennis Johnson goes to the Baltimore Ravens, the defensive line coach. I don't know. We know Dave is a stand-up guy. Say what you want about him as a coach. Most of the stories we've heard are him being a nice guy, right? And a couple years ago, he gave Gary Bohannon, the starting quarterback, the opportunity to leave in the portal so that he didn't have to lose eligibility. He said, hey, we're going to go with Blake Shapen as our starter.
BYU starting quarterback Gary Bohannon?
That's correct. Correct. Same one. And I'm starting to wonder if he told the same thing to his staff after he got retained. Guys, look, I don't know.
Best one.
If you get an offer, I'd take it personally. And that's what's so weird about this is they're all better jobs, right? But I get it. Alabama's a much better job than Baylor, especially in the current state. But Kapilovic, you just got here, man. You just got here. You are keeping guys on the team. You're selling them this dream. You're bringing in recruits. And 2 months later, you're gone. Outie. It's a wild scenario to be in December when this stuff happens. It's way more wild in the latter half of February to have all of this happen. Now, there is a silver lining to this. You ready to hear this?
Oh, yeah.
Because it might just be crazy. So you lost an offensive coach in Kapilovic. You brought in an offensive line coach. That's already sorted. Your other 2 guys are on the defensive side of the ball. One that you already have Dave Aranda taking responsibilities for with the play calling this year on the defensive side is the head coach. So your defensive coordinator, Matt Powledge, could he take on some other opportunities? Maybe. But they also did just hire someone a couple weeks ago, Drake, who is a pretty darn good defensive mind. Now, as a senior strategic consultant, Gary Patterson can more or less do his job from his house. But what if he just needs to get down in the trenches again as a real coach and he just takes on one of these position groups? Crazier things have happened.
This is the New York financier, Chris Beard, the UNLV basketball
Gary Patterson, the defensive line coach for Baylor. Gary Patterson.
You O.J. Simpson, the running back?
The guy with the most games of 200 plus yards?
Chris Kapilovic? They'll forget his name quick. As they should. I just tell you might lose your obscure inside linebackers coach who goes to be the co-defensive coordinator, right, at Washington State. You're like, sure, whatever. We didn't know who that guy was. But to have 3 guys.
To be fair, we don't know who these guys are. Really.
Yeah.
I mean, the sickos know, of course.
Dennis Johnson, I know. You got a better idea. My question with this
Hall
is,
of Famer, but to have it's just the volume that's concerning. One guy, they're replaceable, but 3 guys, what?
I saw a couple people that were like, oh, these three leaving is a sign of poor leadership from Dave Aranda. And look, I'll be the first one to show up to the doorstep of the poor leadership from Dave Aranda party. I am right there with you guys. But, dude, it's the NFL and Alabama. I don't know if they're like, if you're at Oklahoma State, the stability of Mike Gundy, you probably still leave for those two things.
Yeah. Like, so we actually had yesterday on the Matt Mosley show, weekdays 3 to 6, ESPN Central Texas, with Will Turboff from 24/7 Sports, who covers a lot of Baylor recruiting. He's great. He's in the trenches. He's got contacts to all these guys. And I asked him something along those lines of like, hey, we hear about, Baylor hitched their wagon to Dave Aranda because there's stability there and there's stability in the coaching staff for the most part. Yeah, a little iffy. But the quote out of this was that there's no attrition in the locker room. There's no attrition within the Baylor football building. And so I asked Will, is this a sign of attrition? And he's like, no, they left for Alabama and the Ravens. Yeah. It's not a sign of like, hey, they don't want to coach here. Is there what I think a stability issue? Sure, because like, there's a very real possibility that this thing gets off to a rocky start next year and Dave Aranda's gone before Columbus Day. Like that's a real possibility. And I'm sure Chris Kapilovic doesn't want to go through that again, being on Mel Tucker's staff last year at Michigan State. But I don't know how much that even came into play. I just think these were better jobs. We see it in the media world all the time. Doesn't matter how long you're at one place. You could be on a radio show for 2 weeks, but if you get your own radio show on that same station, you're going to take that opportunity.
Probably so. You'd at least explore. You talk to the boss man and see what he says.
Course, yeah.
Before we jump into even more sports,
love sports.
The Mason Miller hire at the O-line spot. I mean, Yeah, I love that Dave Aranda and Jake Spavital said, you know what? If we can't have this Alabama guy, give us the Hal Mummy disciple. Dude, I mean, how do you rate this hire?
This tickles me, Drake. And this is for the whole Big 12. This ain't just Baylor sickos here, so don't hit that plus 30 button or whatever. Because they brought in this guy. They could have promoted somebody, but they brought this guy in. Offensive coordinator at Tarleton State, of course. Like when you get an opportunity at the Tarleton State staff, you take that if you're Baylor, right? But also they brought him in because of the Hal Mummy, because of the Mike Leach, because he is used to coaching offensive line specifically in air raid spread offenses. Jake Spavital has already said that's the way we're going. We're going air raid. We're spreading it out. And now Baylor coaches are admitting, which they haven't been able to say for almost a decade now. It's like saying Voldemort. They're saying, hey, remember when Art Briles was here? Let the off the field stuff. No, not great. But remember when we were putting up like 60 points a game? We're one of the best football teams in the country and like on our way towards a national championship. Why don't we go back to that? And it's the first time we have seen since Briles was unceremoniously dismissed in 2016 that they have leaned into that. They have leaned into it and they've said, yes, this was a recipe for success. This was the most stable era of 120 years of Baylor football, and it was fun, and it was sexy, and people wanted to come here and play for it. Why don't we get back to that? And every move you have seen this offseason on the offensive side has leaned towards that. So this hire, I have never been more excited by an offensive line coach hire than right now.
Of course. Coming up, I got something big for you, and Cam does too. Oh, this is going to be good. Locked On Big 12, Locked On Baylor, your favorite podcast every day. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is where I go when I need money. It's like, rent's coming up. Oh, great. FanDuel exists. I go there, I say, FanDuel, I think that St. Mary's is going to win the basketball game tomorrow. And FanDuel says, all right, put some money on it. Money where your mouth is. And then FanDuel rewards me when St. Mary's does win the basketball game or Cincinnati or whoever. FanDuel.com. /locked on, get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. When Sunday rolls around and you're feeling like, oh gosh, dang it, I had a bad couple days on FanDuel. That's when you bet Quinnipiac basketball, Canisius, Siena, St. Peter's. They're all right there for you at FanDuel.com. It makes it easy to make a little extra pocket cash. Quick bets, live same game parlays, exclusive props, and more. FanDuel.com /locked on. Shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook of the NBA.